What's up, everyone? Are you struggling with a cubing mental block? Whether it is getting a sub 10 official 3x3 average or getting a blindfold success in competition, I've had my fair share of mental blocks, and today I'm going to offer you guys some advice for dealing with them and eventually pushing past them. I will be sharing my personal experiences with them and let you know what has worked for me and what has also not worked. Now, everyone is different, so these tips may not work for everyone, but hopefully you can use some of these to help you or possibly find other ways to overcome your mental blocks. So let's just get right into it. So the first piece of advice that I can offer for dealing with mental blocks is to not start them in the first place. If you're confused by what I mean, let me explain. So for those of you who have watched my videos for over 5 years, some of you may remember that I had a huge mental block on 3x3 to get a sub 9 official average. The way that this started was when I had a competition coming up. It was the first competition where I had a reasonable chance of getting a sub 9 average on 3x3. So in the days leading up to the competition, I was telling myself and others that I was going to get a sub 9 average. I said this with a lot of confidence, and I went into the competition expecting to walk away with that sub 9 average. But when I went to compete, I choked in the averages that I had at that competition, and I was so disappointed in myself, and I was determined to get that sub 9 average at my next competition. But every competition after that, I could not control my nerves enough to get that sub 9. And every time that I was one solve away from it, I would choke very bad. And over time, I would just not do well in competitions because I really wanted that sub 9. So the lesson that I learned from this was that when you get into the range of getting a nice result such as this sub 9 average, you should not be overconfident with yourself, and you should not go in expecting to get it right away after entering the range of getting that result. So going into that competition, I should have told myself that getting a sub 9 average would be nice, but not expecting it. Doing things this way, you can go to a competition with realistic expectations and not leave disappointed in yourself. Now, some of you are probably saying that you already made that mistake of going to a competition expecting to get your goal and need to get out of it. Well, here's how I did it. So going back to my sub 9 mental block, I eventually came to the realization that I was not ready to get a sub 9 average. In other words, I told myself that I was not fast enough to have a reasonable chance of getting that sub 9 average. Essentially, I tried to bring my expectations back to what they were before, that getting a sub 9 average would be nice, but it is not very likely. But I still knew that I would eventually get it, just not anytime soon. So don't think that you will never get it, but instead, it's just not going to come anytime soon. After doing this, I naturally got that sub 9 average once I was able to get that thought out of my head. So when you are going for a special result like this, it is best to let it happen naturally, not expecting it. This way, you do not let a mental block ruin your competition results for a long period of time. Another important thing to do to avoid these mental blocks or just control your nerves is to not over practice. If you are practicing at a competition and you start to get a lot of good times for yourself, you really need to stop practicing. A good way to do this is to solve a different puzzle until you have completed your official solves for the event you were originally practicing, or just not practice any event at all for that matter. Just take a break, take a walk or something like that, just to kind of clear your mind. So I made this mistake at my last competition where I was practicing 4x4 and beginning to get a lot of 23s, which were very fast for me, and they still are. I really should have stopped practicing after getting these to calm myself down and not get nervous, but I didn't do that, and then I did not do well in my official solves afterwards. Using these strategies will make it easier to avoid mental blocks, get out of them if they start anyways, and control your nerves. By practicing these strategies, I was able to get my first official sub 8 3x3 average only 7 months after getting my first sub 9 average. This also helped me to get my sub 7 average that kind of came out of nowhere. I knew it was possible, but I knew it was extremely unlikely for me at the time. I was struggling to get a sub 7.5 average for like a year, and after using these strategies and changing my goals to just getting solid averages, which are not necessarily PRs, I was able to control my nerves and naturally got my sub 7, albeit a lot earlier than I expected. And I have been able to resolve and avoid many other mental blocks that I had. And I should also mention that when going for a good average, Only try to go for your goal average if you are one solve away. So don't start the average trying to get it, because that will put a lot of unnecessary pressure on yourself. But if you can lock it up with just one solve, you should definitely try to go for it. But be sure to take a lot of deep breaths and calm yourself down before you do it. This is what I did when I got my sub 7 average. So in conclusion, keep your expectations realistic and do not go into any competitions expecting to get some goal you have in mind, but instead just say that it would be nice if you got it. And stop practicing if you begin to get a lot of really good times before you have competed. If you are going for a goal average, don't try to go for it unless you are only one solve away from locking it in. And most of all, take deep breaths and keep yourself calm before and during your official solves. These strategies have worked best for me when overcoming large barriers and just competing in general. If you guys have any other strategies you have used that I did not mention, feel free to leave them in the comments below. I would love to hear what you guys may have done to overcome your mental blocks. I hope this video was helpful and that you all get better at competing. And these methods can also be applied for other activities beyond cubing. So use these strategies to make yourself better at competing in anything that you come across. Thank you for watching.